Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Back here. That smile can mean only one thing. My old friend Charlotte is here.
Hey, Sam.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. How excited are you? I feel like the first time we spoke, it was all like butterflies and energy because you were just kind of starting to. I think you were still in NXT. I don't even think you were main roster yet. But you were going there, or it was right at the beginning of the main roster or something. And now, like, it's only been maybe 2 years.
Was it you and Katie in San Jose?
Yes.
Media Row.
Yes.
I have a pretty good memory.
Yes, that's when it was. Yeah, because that was the show. That was the weekend that you guys did the show that I think kind of changed the perception of women's wrestling and NXT and everything, right? Because that show wasn't telecast, but I feel like that was the show that all this buzz came out of, that everybody was like, look at what's going on over here.
Well, it was one of the first traveling shows for NXT.
Yeah, definitely.
So
and the first show that you guys had done that was in that big of a building.
I think a lot of the higher ups came to that show.
Yeah.
Actually saw me and Sasha that night, so
yeah,
that's also helped.
I think that was the one where people were all saying that Vince was coming out of there, had watched the show, and was coming out of there going like, what? Like, how are the women getting, like, the women are not getting women reactions, they're just getting reactions. Yeah. And everything kind of changed after that. And now, so much has happened so quickly, but you've got a book out.
Weird, right?
Was that ever like a goal or a thought, or like one day I'd like to write a book? And
well, not at 31.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm like, is my life over now?
I mean, it's kind of, first of all, that's what I thought, right? So like, I hear that the book's coming out, and I'm like, it's genius that it's you and your dad doing it together, because whatever life you haven't lived yet, he's lived 100 times for you. But then as I'm reading the book, and it's specifically reading your parts, I'm like, Charlotte has lived a lot more life than I think anybody is aware of. Like, there was the book, I kind of was expecting sort of a fluffy, I came in and I came to NXT and blah, 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 and I got a robe that looked like my dad. And it ended up being way more real and way more personal, and kind of unbelievable how personal it was. Did you intend for it to expose yourself on that level?
So this is how it came. My dad did his first book, To Be the Man, 2001?
Something like that.
Yeah, so the idea was he wanted to do another book, or, everyone was kind of saying you should do another book because of everything that's gone on in your life. Well, when that happened, then they were like, he has another role with WWE programming, and that's as my manager.
Right.
So why not add Charlotte? And then, I know how open and honest my dad is.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to think about it at first, because not that I'm a private person, but I have spent, almost 5 years creating this character, and it was due out of what I've been through, which I put in the book. And, Charlotte is not relatable. She's never really vulnerable on WWE programming. And I had to kind of decide, can I do this? Am I, is it the right move?
Right.
Are people going to view me different? And then I thought to myself, okay, so if there's an audience out there that can relate to me now and understand like what I've been through, and I think a lot of things that I do talk about, a lot of people can relate to on a certain level. I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll help somebody, because I needed that help then.
Yeah.
And that's why I decided to do it. And I didn't tell my brother's story. I didn't tell my mom's story. I didn't tell my dad's story. I just wanted people to know where I was emotionally and mentally, and that, being my dad's daughter was never something that I just came into wrestling, because that's been my hardest struggle, I think, for the last couple of years, was like, you guys, I'm not trying to live off my dad's name. Like, I legitimately care. Like, give me a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So it took 2 years to write this, and it was a lot of journaling.
Was there stuff that you weren't sure if you wanted to, like, it's one thing to
My
be
marriage.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking.
One. So, like, and I'm honest about it, but it's really hard when people on social media are like, God, she's just like her dad, married twice. Like, I'm embarrassed of that. Like, I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what's the best way to overcome it? Well, you know what? Talk about it. And I can't change it. And it's like, I am when people say that, they're like, oh, she's just like her dad. You don't know what I wrote about it. I journaled, and it was therapeutic.
Yeah. And it's also like to say, oh, she's just like her dad because here's the stats on her, right?
Yep.
Like, it's just like 2 marriages.
All you get is the stats.
Right. As opposed to, here's the story. Here's how, why, and how. And it's like, and then it almost feels like once you know the story, for anybody to sit there and say that because it almost implies, well, she shouldn't have divorces, which means she should still be in the marriage. But, like, in order to what? In order to not have divorces, you should stay in an abusive relationship?
Exactly.
But I guess that's hard. That is a hard thing for Charlotte to say.
For Charlotte, yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's like, even in my personal life, I still think, like, well, how do I go into a normal group of people as Charlotte and then be like, yeah, I've been married twice? Like, people don't get that. But I grew up fast.
Yeah.
My dad in the spotlight, like I talk about in the book, I was with seniors in middle school.
Right.
Like, that's not normal. But due to, my athletic background, and I just grew up fast, but I still deal with I still go through it today, but it's also my way of doing this, but not doing it or talking about it without, I guess, making it reality. No,
right.
This is real.
Right.
This isn't for a creative story to tell about being married. No, this is my story, and I hope, I could overcome it myself by talking about it.
And it's also about helping people in real life. Like, it's not something like, oh, well, this is happening to my character, so it could help you. Like, no, this is my actual real person, real life story.
No, this is and like Charlotte, the character, I want to be Charlotte. Like, that's the funny thing. Like, when I come through the curtain, I want to be her. Like, if I tell people this all the time, like, if I could have that confidence in everyday life, it'd be different.
Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because the rap on your dad for a long time, like, that was kind of probably like 10 or 15 years ago when it started coming out that he started getting honest about the fact that when he was in WCW towards the end, his confidence was zero. And, like, we all see this picture of the Nature Boy, and he's, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And he's just confidence personified.
Yeah.
And then you learn that he had, like, this crippling insecurity that was killing him for years there.
Self-doubt. Yeah. And Hunter once said, everyone knew who Ric Flair was except for Ric Flair. And not that anyone would say, I know my strengths as a performer, but every day I still deal with, insecurity or not being sure or anything. So it's, I can hide that pretending to be somebody.
Yeah, through the character.
So and that's what he did.
Right. And but it's not like you intended to do that, right? It's not like you were like, oh, my dad's insecure, so I'll be insecure. My dad created this character.
No, and his insecurities are, like, completely different than mine. Like, he knows. My dad to this day, every day says, go to bed every night knowing who you are. Right. So I remember Hell in a Cell versus Sasha last year. I was like, Dad, what if they don't buy it? And he's like, well, you walk out there and you listen to the crowd. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, like, he knew who he was as a performer.
Right.
100%. So
where did his insecurity come from?
I don't know. I think his age. If I had to guess.
Gotcha.
I think his age.
He has this run. So when he's your age and even older, like, he's still on this run of being the Nature Boy. And then as he gets older, there's new young guys getting attention paid to them.
Yes.
That's where his insecurity comes from.
And where he should, I think maybe, his booking might have made him insecure.
Sure.
And also when you think about my dad's career, he never wanted to be the movie star. He wanted to be the greatest wrestler of all time.
Right.
And I think in that time, when you had Hogan making movies, and then you had WWE, and then the Attitude Era, like,
yeah,
it's much different than what my dad, his path.
Right, because he's spent years building this thing but I mean, it started in the territory system.
Yeah.
Like, wrestling was just a completely different business, and now that makes sense. He's got to find his place in this new business.
Yeah. When it wasn't like that.
Right. But your insecurity comes more
as my
performer.
20s, as a performer, and, well, not even as a performer. Well, maybe the first couple years. It's just, I maybe just in the last couple months have really figured out who I am.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
Like, that's the insecurity, is not knowing, like, when I quit my scholarship, I think this is the best year of my life I've had since I was that age. And I say that in the book. Like, with my best friend, Brittany, who I played volleyball with, she graduated when I was a sophomore, but I just didn't know who I was. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin, and I had grown up in this, Charlotte's not small, but just around, I just never felt like I fit in, and I think it's because I was with older kids at such a young age, and then I got left with the kids my age, and I didn't know how to fit in, and I was older, but I wasn't, and I got stuck, and then once I quit my scholarship and moved in with my first husband, I just completely
you got lost. You lost yourself in.
And also, my dad had moved out.
Right.
When my mom and dad got divorced, because, I know the book. I talk about, like, it seemed real. Yes, there were ups and downs, and maybe I painted too much of a perfect picture growing up, but, like, that's how I felt. Like, I only knew my dad had an affair when I was in middle school. Like, other than that, we did everything together as a family.
And it was just like white picket fence
and
family.
I just wanted to be with my family. Like I said, I didn't spend the night away from the house that much, like, other than sports or when I went on volleyball and gymnastics, cheerleading competitions. Like, I was always with my family.
Right.
So
that's kind of
we did everything together. Like, me and my mom, my dad brought me and my mom on those tours with WWE.
Yeah.
Like, we did, I don't know, like, my dad left, and then I went to college, and I didn't even know how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Like,
and it kind of feels like that you're just now starting to get out of that place of proving yourself to the people that are around you, because like, you're a kid, right? And you're hanging out with older kids. I got to prove that I'm cool enough to be with the older kids. You go to college, and you're like, I got to figure out how to be on my own because I've been with my family all this time. You get married, you're trying to prove yourself to your husband, and then you get into wrestling.
But I continue to fail, and that was the problem. Right. And, like, not wanting to fail. Like, I talk about, marrying Ricky, or marrying my ex, probably. What I felt inside was more like, I can't fail.
Yes.
I'd already quit volleyball.
Right.
And,
so,
like,
I have to make this work.
Sports were my biggest part of my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, just continuously feeling like I was failing.
So were you getting that feeling in the beginning in wrestling? Because, I mean, we've talked about it before, and, like, Reed is such a huge part of this book.
Yeah.
But we talked about how you were living Reed's dream for him.
Yep.
And in the beginning, now, obviously, you've established yourself, and you've realized this love of what this is. But he's
still my...
That's still your motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because... I can't say that I wrestle and think, like, I want to be famous, or I want to be, like, I just like being in the ring. Mm-hmm. Like, on SmackDown on Tuesday, when my dad was sick, it was the longest I'd been out.
Yeah.
Even when my brother died, I only took a week off.
Wow.
I just like being in the ring. I just like wrestling. Like, I just like it. And it's not because I get the accolades at the end of the day, or because I'm on the cover of a magazine. I just really like professional wrestling.
Yeah. And
I like being creative. And what wrestling did for me was it allowed me to express my emotions and like, because I'm not playing ball anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I got to express how I felt inside and you get to do that in wrestling. It's acting, it's physical, it's all of those things. So I don't know, I just like it.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I when you were talking about being insecure and stuff in the last couple of months, that's what I was thinking of just on SmackDown when the show closed with you pointing to yourself as the number one contender. Like, I've watched for a long time, and especially now, I can see in somebody's face, sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's not as strong, but you can see when somebody's trying to figure it out. It meaning who their character is, where they're going. Like, you can see in the eyes, like, okay, like they're getting there, but they're still trying to figure it out. And like, I don't know. I just had this moment watching you win that match on SmackDown and the show closing on your face where it was like, that was you. You were exactly where you're supposed to be. It was as believable as anything I've ever seen. Like, it was like, that is the person who's in charge. She knows exactly who she is, exactly what she's doing, and exactly why and where she's going.
And I wasn't thinking good guy or bad guy.
Right.
And that's been the transition for me on SmackDown was like, you want me to be this good guy?
Right.
Oh, no. Because when I first heard that, my instant, we know where I went, oh, my gosh. I just left NXT. I'm respected, not loved. What's going to happen to my character again?
Right.
So that, like, really, and then obviously having my on-screen friendship with Becky, because Becky is the most, endearing baby face.
Right.
Natural baby face.
Right.
I think that's helped, but just going on camera and being like, okay, I'm going to be me, but just a little.
Just turn it up.
Just bring in that Charlotte a little bit and not worry about it, and then not caring anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, the boss is still the boss, but guess what? The boss is the most popular.
Yeah.
Like, and just being okay with that and not worrying, like, okay, if they respect you, if they don't, whatever, you're getting a reaction.
Well, I mean, and you hate to bring it back to your dad, but your dad kind of went through the same thing where he got to a place in his career where he was just Ric Flair.
Whatever.
Like, good guy or bad guy, like, just get the reaction, tell the story. Play your part in this story. Don't worry about this traditional role.
And that really, you have to commit to, that's enough, like, it's like committing to being a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like committing to not caring.
Right.
But it's not caring in the sense of you don't care about the story. Like, I will follow the story, but it's just a matter of like, okay, they're not cheering. Okay.
Because then you're changing
then
you go. You're not doing
and then you're
anything.
like, just stop. Because when I was like, oh, I got to get a new moveset. Like, I'm a baby face. What am I going to do? What do you mean I can't throw 6 big boots? But it's like, no, I haven't changed anything. And I think that's actually helped me more is I'm comfortable enough now to even on live events. Like, I'm like, oh, they're cheering for me. Don't freak out.
Yeah.
But it's like, so no, I just haven't changed. It's just.
Because people want to know, like, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, there has to be a who is Charlotte. And if you're changing every time you switch a roster.
They won't understand.
Yeah, who are you then?
No.
You're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants a little bit.
And I took it as a challenge as well, because if that's what they were going to make me, it's almost like, well, you don't want to say that you're not up for the challenge.
Right.
And that is more like you have to go like this on the main roster.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
How scary did things get with your dad? Because I was watching, the videos and watching your dad be your dad and do that interview. But yeah, I mean, you can see that this is a guy who is recovering still. Like, and when it kind of came out that you were told, look, say what you got to say because I don't think he's going to make it. Is that true? That's what the doctor said to you?
Oh, said that to me, my brother, and my sister. Oh. So I had just gotten back from China.
Right.
Shenzhen, Hong Kong to Boston. They flew me from Boston to Atlanta, and I got there. I was like, okay, I know I'm here. I know it's serious. But Dr. Elsie was like, I'm going to be honest with you. Your dad's not breathing on his own, and I don't, we don't want to do this surgery, but if we don't do the surgery, he's going to die. But we can't say, he's going to make it out of this surgery, and the chance is not
great.
So you should say your goodbyes. So me, my sister, and my brother were like, what the dot. Like, how do you say goodbye to someone that's not there?
Especially since this came out of nowhere, right? This wasn't like
no, well, he had gone into the hospital, but It's with my dad, it's like he's unbreakable. So
Right.
you don't take it serious.
Right.
But knowing that my dad never gets sick, we were like, okay, something's wrong. But I was still in China. My sister and my brother weren't really up to date, but he had been there for a day, and obviously he had a lot of complications. And then they called us in and they were like, okay, this is where we're at. So basically he went in a very sick man is what we were told.
And when do you know or think that everything's going to be okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
probably a week and a half in. Because even after surgery, they were like, great, he made, he lived through the surgery. He was still on dialysis. His kidneys weren't working. He needed a pacemaker, and took about a week and a half for his kidneys to start working.
Wow. Yeah.
And then now everything's perfect,
Everything's
which
good.
is like, after the week and a half, it's like every day he just kept getting better and better. I'm like, Dad, why did you have to scare us like that?
And then he comes out, of course, his first
Wooing.
first public thing is a plug
Let me
for
tell
the
you a
merch
little
store.
story, right?
Yeah.
So, when he first, was taken off the breathing machine and the doctors wanted to have him walk around, obviously he needed help and support, but he didn't even know who I was. Like, he was still in ICU delirium is what they call it. And he's just pushing the walker in ICU.
Which, by the way, is terrifying because at a certain age, like when you go in for
they had to
surgery,
rule out that it wasn't a stroke or brain
Right,
damage or
okay.
anything. And we're like, why does he not know who I am?
Right.
But he was quoting numbers from towns. What the numbers were at houses from the 80s. I'm like, that's great. He can give you the house in Chicago in 1980, whatever, but he doesn't know who I am. Wow.
Just
It
saying,
was
like,
I just sit there and like listen to him like talking the numbers. I'm just like, this is crazy. But so he's pushing the walker with the nurses and the doctor, pushing, and just literally stops and starts strutting
no.
in the ICU. Doesn't know who I am.
No.
Isn't really talking,
But
but
he-
just does the little strut in the ICU in his gown. And I'm like, what the? This is not real. And then I'm like, Dad. And he's just looking at me like, 1980 Chicago. 300 at the gate or whatever.
That's right, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the Ric Flair that.
And so when his 30 for 30 comes out
Yes.
in November, you'll know that like professional wrestling is my dad's first love, and that's
You're
what
right.
he lived for.
And that's what your whole family just has to deal with that.
Yep.
And just realize that. And,
Yeah. And
move
that's
on
why I
from
think
there.
we're so, me and my dad are so close, because now I'm in the industry that he loves so much. So I understand.
Right.
I get it. I get wanting to be the main event every night. I get, me and Sasha wrestled how many times for those months, and I didn't want it to end because it just got better and better. Like, I get it.
Right.
Like,
And it's impossible to
It's
really
impossible.
get until you do it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like the everything. I get it.
Yeah. That click that comes
Yeah.
along with everything.
Or like-
it really was funny though that the first thing that he tweeted out publicly was a link to his merch store. To be like, you can buy I'm alive and you can buy the t-shirt. I was like, oh, only Ric Flair could get away with it. Everybody else would be like, it would be distasteful. But when the Nature Boy does it, it's like, all right, he's back.
I might pass on this shirt, Dad. I'm a little more PG in my branding.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you know Bobby Heenan at all as like
I
a
did.
little girl?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did
It's
that one hit you hard too?
I don't want to say I'm desensitized.
Yeah.
But I just know every time I see it hits my dad, because I think my dad's like, why am I here?
Why did he make it and other people didn't?
Yeah. I think it's hard on my dad.
Do you think that because he's saying now that he's never going to drink again and that this is going to be a new step in his life and more of a motivational speaker type person, do you think that he's going to be able to live that life? Walk the walk, as it were?
Walk the walk. I just don't want him to, it's very hard to say you're never going to do something again.
Right.
But I do know that when I've had a lot of alone time with my dad in the hospital, this scared him. And I, had a heart to heart with him. I was like, Dad, you needed to slow down.
Right.
And I know that you are the Energizer Bunny, but you were on the road for 40 years. Just slow down and enjoy us.
Yeah.
And I think that really hit home to him. That, and also too, that like we want him around.
It's good lessons for you to learn too, right? Like, because you can't always see when you're in it, but you can look at him and see that if he were to stop everything right now, nobody could ever take his career away from him. Like, it's there, it's cemented.
But that's what I think he needs to. That's what it
Do
took.
you realize that though? Like when looking at your career, like, and of course you're much younger, but say 10, 15 years down the road, whatever, are you going to be able to say, well, I know from watching him that I can slow down, I can stop, I don't need to be proving to people every single
Well, I hope that
day.
proving to people goes away.
Right.
But I have just learned a lot watching, or seeing where my mom and dad struggles.
Mhm.
And I just know that I made an executive choice when I started wrestling. I got out of my 20s and I just want to keep, growing as an individual. So in 15 years, when it's time to walk away, I will have been smart. I will have, set up a future. I will have done X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Well, I mean that is right, because that's what you want to do, is to be able to, the lessons that you're like,
Yeah.
why can't you see this? Make sure that you take them in for yourself.
Yep.
So that you can kind of grow from there and everything.
Yeah.
Are you back to wrestling? Are you looking at anybody from the Mae Young Classic? Were you aware of it at all, or were you?
I sat there every match.
Right.
I didn't miss a match.
So who do you look at in that tournament as like, this is a person that needs to be up with us? This is a person that can do amazing things with us, because that's part of the women's revolution, right? Is that it keeps moving.
Well, as a baby face, I really want to face Alpha. But no, I think there was a few women. I'm gonna start with Piper.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked her. I just had fun watching her. The way she moves, her energy. Dakota.
Yes.
Wow. Just her natural spunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't, I mean, that's just who she is. Tessa Blanchard has come. I saw her try out at the Performance Center 2 years ago. Night and day.
And how poetic.
And the way she held herself.
And do you, as a wrestler, as somebody who values the storytelling now, do you now see, like, if she can get herself to a certain level, a Charlotte Flair, Tessa Blanchard match, team, whatever it is like too poetic for words?
No, absolutely. And I'm not even looking at her from generational standpoint. I just watching her grow from the tryout. Like, this is a different person.
Right.
Obviously, I love. I say her name wrong, Kyrie.
Yeah.
Gosh, she's just fun.
I've never seen.
I don't even care about her entrance or the she's just a fun wrestler. She's aggressive.
And I can't believe that anybody's done something new with the elbow drop.
And how her body, like,
I still don't. I can't figure it out.
It does, but it doesn't even remind me of the Macho Man elbow drop.
No, it doesn't.
It's not even remotely.
Yeah.
There's others that I also. She kind of reminds me, so she doesn't wrestle like Becky, but she's got this like natural, she is in NXT though. I can't, she has long hair. She kind of wears like a fur vest. Not Rachel Ellering, but her Sarah,
I'm sure I'm blanking on the name.
I'm blanking on the name.
But yeah, I'm sure everybody listening to this is like screaming at it.
What is her name?
At their
long hair, naturally beautiful. God, what is her name? What is it? No, not Lacey.
Well, we'll
I can't think. She did a hardcore gimmick before NXT. Does that help?
I know who you're talking about, but I'm blanking.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
I really liked her. She just had natural likability.
Are you gonna stop doing that moonsault to the outside? Because I know everybody has come to you and said, like, that is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life.
I haven't done it in a while. I don't know.
Just keep scaring
No.
people. Well, listen, Charlotte, I got to let you go.
Okay.
You got so much press to do for this book. It really is an outstanding book. Everybody should pick it up. Second Nature. It's like so personal and real life, and it's like it's just well told. You get like the perspective of Rick and ending his career in his last match, and then your perspective of the same thing. It's just like
Thanks, Sam.
it's well told, and it's really
Thank you.
cool, and I'm happy for you.
It's weird.
It's great.
I don't even know how. Thank you.
It's great.
I
Thank you
appreciate it.
so much, and
Thanks, Sam.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.